Hello, everybody. It's 10:58 a.m. Central Time on the 2nd of March, 2023. It's officially the future, I think. It's Thursday here in the United States, Friday already internationally, and I hope you're already having a good weekend internationally. Let's get a display capture turned on just so you can see what I see a little bit better. We're still looking at Earthquake 3D, the program. In case you don't know where you are on the Earthquake 3D live stream being recorded on Twitch. We'll go ahead and upload this to YouTube after we're done, but I would recommend that you use a program like Earthquake 3D or similar just so you can plot out the earthquakes from the USGS, the EMSC, European Agency, so forth, and you can get a good idea of what's striking around the planet over the past few days. We're looking at 48 hours right now. And if you're new here, the deep earthquakes are raised high off the globe so that you can see them easily, as opposed to the shallow earthquakes that are up here at the surface. They're hugging the earth. The deep earthquakes are down below the plates, and we watch around where our deep earthquakes are for new spreads to begin and then spread out across the planet following our plate boundaries. And the plate boundaries I reference a lot during my updates. If you're not familiar with the plate boundaries, let me just show them to you really quick. It's a map from the USGS that we use here, showing the red lines between the plates. The red lines are the plate boundaries. So, for instance, here's the Pacific plate, and next to it we have the Indo-Australian plate, and the boundaries between them, of course, you can see that's where a majority of our earthquakes are breaking out. Now, this matters on the deep quakes because the deep quakes are coming up from down below the plates. Down below where the Pacific meets the Indo-Australian plate, and that gets me into the start of this update. So just quick explanation for the new people. We have a big, deep 6.5 down below Papua New Guinea right here, and it's down at 598 kilometers deep. Let's just say 600 kilometers down. Something's going on down below, and it's going to be coming up on both sides, spreading out and away from this new big, deep quake. Now, let me turn something on here really quick so that you can see it, what I'm talking about. Turn on a shell feature. It looks like a bubble or a dome going out and around the earthquake, and you see it goes all the way over here to the letter D, and it goes all the way over here to the Indonesia-Philippines border region. It goes as far north as the Izu Ridge, and it goes somewhat out here into American Samoa and the Western Pacific out in the ocean. Also goes down across Melbourne and South Australia and back across our Arrow in Western Australia. So it's like a big bubble of pressure coming up on the underside of the plate. You got to remember that because on all sides of this, we can see major movement. And next to the big deep quake, we can see up to a magnitude larger. So if we have a deep 6.5, we can see up to a shallow 7.5, maybe even bigger. But I usually put a 1 magnitude limit on it just to watch for 1 magnitude larger on a big deep quake. Now that's just if there's one big deep quake. We have multiple deep quakes popping off across the West Pacific, looking like a pincushion, going from our letter D, stands for deep earthquakes, where we look for, forecast point, multiple 4s there. Then we go to the 6.5 that I was just talking about here. There is no letter D there. However, next to it, over to the west, 2 letter Ds. USGS has been ignoring the earthquakes that are striking there. The deep earthquakes, the Europeans have been reporting them. There's multiple sets of deep 4s that have been hitting here, and you should see them raised high off the globe if the USGS was reporting them. They're deliberately ignoring them. They happened. They're on the USGS site. They're on the EMSC European site. Go feel free to check if you want. Now, up here to the north, new deep 4s and a deep 5. So it's a big spread of deep earthquakes across maybe 8,000 linear miles from Fiji all the way up to Japan. This tells me that we need to watch this region in between where all the deep earthquakes are. We find the middle point between all 3 sets or 4 sets of deep earthquakes. And that puts us right here. Papua New Guinea, just to the west of the 6.5, is our first spot to watch for the potential of the 7.5. Over to the west, we'll watch for a magnitude less to break out at Java and Bali, 6.5 up to 6.5 at Bali, Java, Indonesia. It's really a big open area here. We have a 5 on one side of Indonesia all the way at Sumatra, and a huge cluster of earthquakes here over on the on the western side of Indonesia, over in Java and Sumatra, we have a 5. And on the eastern side, a huge cluster. And we go around the bend of the plate down here to the south. And what would you say the halfway point is between this 5 and this big cluster over to the east if we go around the bend of the plate? It's going to come in right down here, like I said, down at Bali, eastern Java, and so forth. And it should be a magnitude less than the big one. So if we're going to be seeing up to a 7.5, then on each perimeter we'll see something like a 6.5. That includes the Izu Ridge. Izu Ridge should also get hit here. Just north of Guam, the U.S. military base installation and so forth right here on the tiny island. Well, if you're in Guam, just watch out just to your north, guys. New 6.5 is going to be coming in right up here. Right next to our volcanoes, there's a whole line of volcanoes that goes down the Izu Ridge. And I'll turn on my place marks just so you can see how many there are. It's a huge line. It's a couple hundred of them, I think. If not a couple hundred, certainly several dozen that go from Japan all the way down. These are the marked ones, and then in between them, there's just so many more, right? You see, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say a few hundred. I mean, it really is. Goes down to here to Guam. Here's Guam. And we're going to watch just north of Guam, 6.5. Now, usually, when we get something on one side of this plate, let me go show you on the USGS map. Do you see the plate boundary? Oh, new earthquake just struck there as I'm talking. 4.9 to 5 just hit there. Literally at, what time, UTC? That's giving us local time. Whatever. Anyway, you see it's a diamond-shaped plate, and if we get a 6.5 on one side, we tend to see the same-sized earthquakes strike on the other side. So we have an east side and a west side. Both sides tend to move within a magnitude of one another. So if we're going to be getting a 6.5 on one side, like the Izu Ridge, for instance, over here on the east, then we would look for something similar in size to strike over to the west. By the way, that just happened back-to-back here, 2 4.9s. Do you see that? 4.9. That struck at 16:48 UTC 15 minutes ago. And this one struck at 16:41. Wait, hold on. Check it out. Hey, hold on. Guys, look. This one just struck at 16:41, this 5, 4.9. And this one struck 7 minutes later at 16:48. So first this one, then this one. Back and forth. Within the past 20 minutes. You don't even see the other one over on the west side because the USGS is not reporting it. Here, hold on. Yeah, check it out. The Europeans are reporting and they're telling us to go get more information from the USGS, aren't they? Well, let's go to the USGS. Let's go see what they've got. Maybe I just need to click update or something. They're missing a 5. So they got a 5 on one side. They don't have the 5 on the other. You know why? They don't want you to see it. The back and forth. They don't want you to see 2 of the same size quakes on both sides. They said this can't happen. When did this 4.8 strike? 2 hours before. So 2 hours before, we get a 5 down here, 4.8, 4.9. Then up here. Then over here. Boom. 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 3 sides, and it's going to be going up to the north. This is a big deal to me to record live and show you that the USGS is. Let's just make sure. Let's hit refresh. Give them some benefit of the doubt, you know. Yeah, like we should need to, right? Like, that's scandalous. So anyway, you can see it. 2 5s on both sides of this. And they're cherry picking which ones they want. If you're a subscriber to the USGS to get your information, you're woefully ill-informed. No offense. But you're operating out of ignorance if you're using the USGS site for earthquakes. If you just use them, you're totally just don't even know what the fuck is going on. No, I didn't say the F word, but I almost did. You don't know what the hell's going on if you're just using the USGS site. You're literally operating out of a place of ignorance, and they're doing that to you on purpose. They're literally keeping their viewers in ignorance. Isn't that weird? Anyway, so going on both sides of here, we're going to look up to the north. I would watch right next to it, over next to Okinawa, for something similar in size to what's going to strike next to Guam. Guam's due for a 6.5. That means Okinawa's due for something like a 6 to 6.5. 2 U.S. military bases, Okinawa and Guam, should have significant sized earthquakes next to them in the next few days. Going up to 7 days, but that's really pushing it. I would think this is going to happen in the next few days. We're dealing with the deep earthquake down below. We're dealing with a spread of new deep earthquakes. We already have the spread of 5s going up to the north. Again, it's a no-brainer. Whether they're 4.9s from the USGS or whatever, they're 5s going up to the north. So that matters. It's enough to cause serious damage if it strikes on land or very close to it. If it strikes out in the ocean, very few people will care, and they'll all just ignore it. Now, let's go over to the west and talk about this. China started to move, as well as up here north of Nepal, right at the border with Nepal. 4s and 5s. This is all from a day and a half ago. Multiple 5s, 5.2, 5.4, 5.1, and in the middle, multiple 4s, spreading out in a standing wave. Huge standing wave. Thousands of miles long, spreading across this. The plate boundary between the Indo-Australian plate in Africa and the Indo-Australian plate Asia and the Indo-Australian plate and the Pacific. Deep earthquakes from down below this thing, spreading up, across, and over to the west, going across China, and that's the plate boundary. You can see that there for the last 48 hours. It all points over to Turkey, and over in Turkey, we're down to our last day, or second to last, our last day of the watch for a potential new large earthquake in Turkey. We're getting down to it, guys. Literally the last day of my 7-day watch. Watching right here for a potential of up to new 7.0. I hope I'm wrong. Looks like I'm going to be wrong. That's good. It's good for me to be wrong on something like this. I do not want to be right on a 7 striking in Turkey after all the others. The big push is on its way. It's there. I mean, it's right here on your doorstep. You can see it, but it has not progressed over to the west. We have not seen a new big break beyond Tajikistan over here. So we had a 6.8 to 7.0 earthquake 6 days ago. Spread going across here. It's locked here. Obviously, it's locked here. Locked where? Locked on the northwest side of the Indo-Australian plate. And Tajikistan is where we had our 6.8 to 7.0 earthquake this week. And now Tajikistan to the south and back to the east in China is this. And then out in front of it, or over to the west of it, we're kind of maintaining at a 5.0 level. 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. The Turkish agency had it go up to 5.6. And whatever you want to measure it at, knock down new buildings 90 miles away from the previous 7. So the new earthquake that struck here in Turkey was in the mid-range 5 level, and that's where we topped out so far. The big push, still locked in here, focused in, pointing in to here, has not spread to Turkey yet. Meanwhile, down below Italy, right on our arrow, a new break down below the Tyrrhenian Sea, a new deep 4.5. So let's recap everything, guys. Multiple new deep earthquakes, making Earth look like a pincushion as new deep earthquakes are spreading across the West Pacific. Going out past Afghanistan with deep quakes, all the way over to Europe. And it points like a giant arrow. Do you see it? Or a line of earthquakes. This is 48 hours worth of quakes, first of all. But it goes from the West Pacific out over to the west, and it follows the plate boundaries. West Pacific, out over to the west, all the way below Italy. Deep quake below Italy, deep quake below Afghanistan, deep quake below Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, Kamchatka, Fiji, and in the middle of it all, our deep 6.5. Something's going on, obviously, down below the West Pacific, below the Indo-Australian plate, and it's spreading out from there. I mean, you can see it, right? It looks like a fracture in a windshield where you have your big bash in the windshield and then little cracks that spread out all the way across. And when I say little, I mean, depends on how big the bash is at the center of your windshield that the spread goes out. Now imagine this. Your windshield's already cracked, and then the bash comes in and it follows the previous cracks that are already there, transferring that force outwards and away from all directions, from where the push is coming in. Push is coming in down below. It's coming up. It's spreading out. Up in Japan, we can go ahead and issue the warning now. Next 6 to 7 days, the coast of Japan, from Tokyo north to the most famous spot on what I would say the planet, earthquake-wise, the coast of Honshu, from the Fukushima quake, you're going to be going up to 6.5, maybe even larger. It's going to be the combined total of what's coming from the south. Like I said, 2 6.5s or something very close to it, Okinawa and Guam. Well, it's going to come back together up here like a river that comes back together, a forked river. The river forks at the south, spreads 2 ways, and then comes back together. So we're going to see the 2 6s combine back together, and we're going to see our new upper 6 to strike here on the coast of Japan by the end of the week. So it's going to be busy in the West Pacific. We're watching down in Indonesia, going into Papua New Guinea for a potential large earthquake, extremely large. We're going to watch for 6s going up to the north all the way to Japan, and 6s to go to the west over into Indonesia. That's like 4 sets of 6s in the next few days. Now, look over here. Notice anything about the lack of earthquakes across Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Kermadec Islands, going down to New Zealand? This is all yesterday's earthquake activity. If we take that away, look what hit today. Wow, it's like a big triangle of earthquakes in the West Pacific, starting where our big deep quake is. And then everything over to the east is pretty much what I would call hush, hush, quiet. Not much earthquake activity. Now that's odd because this is one of the most earthquake-prone zones on the planet. That means a new significant-sized earthquake is building in the area. How big? 1 magnitude larger than what's currently here now in the last 48 hours. How am I coming to the magnitude larger determination? It's happening across the rest of the planet, over wherever our deep earthquakes are. So 1 magnitude larger than a 5.6 comes into 6.6. So we have to warn the area north of New Zealand, Kermadec Islands, for the potential of up to 6.6 in the next few days. This has already struck, this 5.6 struck 2 days ago. So it's imminent. Going to be something like a mid-range 6 as well down here. So that's now 5 spots where we're going to be seeing something 6, 6.5 or greater up to 7.5. That's just in the West Pacific, going as far west as Indonesia. 1 more day to go in the watch for Turkey. If it doesn't hit by tomorrow, I cancel my watch. Over in Italy, let's go ahead and issue the warnings now. A new deep 4.5 means up to a 5.5 will be incoming at the Adriatic Sea's central Italy Norcia range, going across over into Croatia in the next few days. So to top it all off, a new 5 is incoming to Italy, of all places. Next few days, guys. Get ready. Tanto amore. Right? Okay, so we have a terremoto warning. That means earthquake in Italian. Terremoto warning in central Italy for the next 6 days. But it should happen soon. This shouldn't be that much longer. This has already been 2 days since our deep 4.5 below the Tyrrhenian Sea. And I have many examples of earthquakes below the Tyrrhenian Sea. And we go right up along this arrow on the east side on the plate boundary. And we get a break that happens from central Italy to the north. It's happened many times. As a matter of fact, more times than not, when there's a deep earthquake down below this area, down in Italy, we see a shallower, larger earthquake pop up along the plate boundary up into Italy and Croatia. I hope I'm wrong. What else is going on? Quiet zone across Kamchatka and the Aleutian Island chain. I don't like seeing quiet zones in earthquake-prone areas. Look at all the small earthquake activity from yesterday. Now, been pretty much replaced by a few 4s up on mainland Alaska. But it's just quiet compared to where we would normally see. We normally see 3s, 4s, 5s strike across the Aleutian Island chain. Nobody even cares. But when it goes quiet, does anybody even notice? Well, I notice. We're going to watch in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain, right in between our 2 sets of 3s. It puts us right down in here. I don't even know what the name of this island is. Atka? Hold on. I'm guessing. Oh, wow. I got it right. What a random guess, right? Atka. Well, no, here's... Or is that Atka? Atka. Atka. I'm from Missouri, guys. It's Atka. Atka. Up to the east by northeast, up onto Maine. Oh, what size? We're going to be dealing with 6.5s coming out of Japan, maybe even bigger, but let's put it at 6.1 to 6.2 up here at Atka. A little bit less as we come up around the bend of the plate on the north side. Let me show you where I'm talking about. If we're going to be getting 6.5s over here in Japan, when we go up and over into the Aleutians, we're going to take a half magnitude step down. So we'll be at that low end 6 level, I think, out here in the middle of the Aleutians. Once we get onto land up here in Alaska, let's look where our 4s overlap. There we go. Where do the rings overlap there? Just, well, if this was an eye where the 2 sets of rings overlap, wouldn't you say that's pretty much right on the harbor and bay and anchorage where the 2 rings overlap? 4.3 on one side, 4.0 on the other. If we add them together, it equals 4.5. We'll put one more magnitude onto it, up to 5.5. I think we're going to be taking a magnitude step up across the board from Alaska back over to the west. So Anchorage next 6 days, watch out for up to 5.5. Okay, what else is going on? Let's go down into Central America, South America. Take a quick look. Central America topped out at 5.7, upper 5. Look where it struck, southern coast of Mexico. You see the rest of the 5s going down across all of Central America. It's like a stepping stone path of 5s. Let's turn down the ring so you can see the spacing on this. Look at this. It really is. They're 5.7, 5.2, 5.3, 4.8, stepping stone path of this mid-range, same-sized earthquakes going across the whole coast of Central America. What does that mean? It means the whole coast of Central America just moved on a mid-range 4 to upper 5 basis in a day or 2 days at the most, from Mexico down to the south past Costa Rica. What caused that? That's the Cocos Plate, but you see, it's tied to the Pacific Plate. And the whole little section there started to move. Now we're going to go straight across, due west, over to the west. And I'll be darned, look at that. The other side has another similar wing to the Pacific, and it's in full motion. I'm going across. What's in the middle? Hawaii. Hawaii started to move as well. It turns out when you see movement here, and you see movement here, in between the two, we also see some movement across the plate at the weak points, but we'll get into Hawaii in just a few. So a line of earthquakes across Central America. What does that mean? We have to add it all together. We have to take the 5.7 plus the 5.2 plus all the 4s, and that equals near 6.0. So a new 6 is going to be spreading over to the east and strike between Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, maybe further to the east, but I do have to warn everybody from Haiti and Dominican Republic all the way over to Puerto Rico. Look where the rings overlap. They kind of overlap on both islands. And when a 6 strikes, they feel it from Jamaica all the way over to the edge of the Caribbean. Let me show you why. You get a 6 right in here, people tend to feel it all the way over here on the west side by Cuba and all the way over here on the east side of the plate boundary over in the Caribbean. So in the middle is where we warn. All I'm doing is taking the earthquakes across the coast of Central America. Let me show you again. Taking all these, adding them up, and moving it over to the east. That's all I'm doing. And we then find our halfway points between our current sets of earthquakes to really pinpoint it down for the spot to watch, where the new standing wave peak is going to come up between the two previous peaks on either side. So a new wave peak is going to come up right in the middle in between the two previous wave peaks. Does that make sense? Okay. Down to the south big open area across Ecuador, that's going to be filled in right here, right on the coast of Ecuador. I have not checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center in a while. I guess we need to go over and check that. Let's go see what's going on the VAACs from around the world. Sakurajima in Japan, Popocatépetl in Mexico. One thing I'd like to point out about this, has anybody noticed the dramatic lack of large blasts reported from the VAACs around the world? It's like they just stopped. All of a sudden, there's no 30 or 40 or 50,000 foot high blast anymore for months and months and months and months on end. It's almost like they're not reporting them or something. No, they could never do that. So we have 4,000 and 5,000 foot high blast around the whole planet, right? That's what it is? No, there's a few 20,000s in there, but some of those peaks are 10,000 and 15,000 feet high. So it's like a few thousand foot high blast at each volcano. I don't know, man. Months on end? That's getting weird. I don't know what to make of that. I don't cover, or I don't forecast volcanoes. I cover them. I look at them. We watch for new blasts. But if we see a lack of blasts, anybody want to venture a guess as to why we're seeing a lack of volcanic eruptions around the whole planet of any size? Significance? Wouldn't it be weird if they all stopped? No significant blast around the world for months on end and nobody says anything? Wouldn't that be more odd than there being 50,000 foot high blast every now and then? Okay, it would mean we're building into an extremely large volcanic event if that's the case. But I don't know about all that. I would think that maybe there probably have been some. And we're just not getting the report on them, you know what I'm saying? We got a lot going on around the world. Last thing you guys need to worry about is 50,000 foot high blast. Better to just not tell you. Not report them, you know? Can't have everybody knowing about them. Now, down to the south, we're going to watch at Ecuador. Likely there have been some significant blasts, but I have to guess at that. So magnitude-wise, we'll put it at a 5.9 because I have to guess. So 5.9, we'll look for an upper 5 to strike here, right on the coast of Ecuador. Down to the south, I don't have to guess as much. We're still getting some reports of quakes, but no blasts or anything like that, like I said. So we're going to watch it. The coast of Chile as well, where the rings are overlapping, for an additional 5.9. 2 5.9s to strike on the coast of South America. And that's because, again, I'm operating out of a place of ignorance when it comes to volcanic blast, and it seems like earthquakes too, but whatever. As we go down to the South Sandwich Islands, where we're getting a great report of earthquakes all the time where nobody lives, take these 5s and add them together, it equals 5.3. We're going to add another magnitude on it, should take us up to 6.3 to strike down at the South Sandwich by the end of this week. Finally, lower 48, United States and Hawaii. So I struck out in Hawaii last week. Complete strikeout. They went only to 3.0 range. I had warned them for up to 5-ish. So what happened? Well, I was basing my warning, and I said this a week ago when I issued the warning, on the storms that were hitting, which I never do. I never do forecasting based on storms. Everybody will agree with that, even SO and the other people who do forecasting based upon earth spots and storms. I hardly ever take it into account. The only reason I mentioned it is the water weight earthquakes. So much rain, so much over such a short period of time in a volcanic area, I proposed that it could be possible that a 5 would strike here instead of up here. They're connected. There's an undersea mount chain that goes from Kamchatka down and branches off over to Hawaii. The undersea mount chain actually carries on down through the Pacific, and it cuts the Pacific in half with a giant letter C or crescent shape that goes back up. Well, believe it or not, this is a giant octagonal or hexagonal wall system from a long time ago that comes off of South America, and it goes out, up, over, and around and makes a giant wall. It was made a long time ago by somebody a long time ago. Seriously, I'm not joking. This goes down, over, back up. This was built a long time ago by somebody. Cuts the Pacific in half. Anyway, the earthquakes come down and go over to Hawaii and branch off this thing. Now, the supervolcanoes that we know of, Tamu-Massif and so forth, there's actually 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th is somewhat hard to see out here in the middle of the Pacific, but it's a big avenue now that you can kind of see these supervolcanoes. Again, we have one up here, supervolcano there off the coast of Japan. I don't know the name of it. Tamu-Massif is right here. That's the one I know the name of. There's Hawaii. The other one is right here, and the 4th one is here. But this is a giant avenue, so to speak, where we're 2,000 miles across here, 2,000 miles across here, 2,000 miles across here, and in between are our supervolcanoes spaced out somewhat equidistantly across this giant avenue that goes from here over and across. Now, the earthquakes are following the outside edge of that avenue, and they go down and across and go into South America, coming from up here. So we get a 5 put in here. I look for it to come down and go into Hawaii. And so, last week, when I issued the warning, I based it on the storms here. And I said, well, we'll see if the earthquake breaks up here or if it breaks down here. And what happened? Let's go back to the start of the... There you go. What happened? We stayed on the north side. I'll never issue another earthquake warning based on the storms. Never. Now, lower 48... Oh, and in Hawaii, what are we going to look for now? I'll get into that in a second. We're going to look for Hawaii to take a step up, but it should be a swarm, I think. It should be just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not more, thousands of small earthquakes that break out there now, as maybe, possibly, we see a spread. Now, speaking of seeing a spread, look across the United States, going from up here in the northwest, down across through Idaho, down through southern Colorado, down through Texas, down into Mexico. It's like a diagonal line of quakes, and maybe to see it, let me turn off the actual magnitudes there. There we go. Do you see it? Going from northwest to southeast across this. This is the North American plate, but what I want to show you is this. The Craton edge. It's a perfect match. The deformed edge, the purple part, going right out to the rusty brownish part in the center of the plate, the more stable portion of the Craton. Look at the quakes going across the edge of it. This is just a day or two's worth of quakes and 2.5 plus. Here's 1.0 plus or 0.0 plus. Now, why does this matter? Let's turn off the magnitudes again just so you can see the spread. Compare to the Craton graphic. Goes down through Texas, back over to the New Madrid seismic zone, and up the East Coast. Look at the week's worth of earthquakes. Notice anything? First of all, what I notice is that the professionals didn't notice this. But it's a perfect spread of earthquake going down through Texas, back over to the New Madrid, and back up the East Coast all the way to Maine. That's a perfect match for the outside edge of the interior portion of the North American Craton. This is one of my biggest discoveries. So what's going on? There's a spread of the same-sized earthquakes going across the whole plate. What's causing it? Well, there's a wave that's going across the plate. That's dropping off the earthquakes along the way. It's not that one earthquake is causing the other. It's not that a 0 up here in Yellowstone is causing a 0 down here at Tetons that's somehow causing a 2 down at Jackson Hole and then 1s and 2s going down across the plate. No, it's that there's a 2.0's worth of energy going from up here in the northwest, down across the edge of the deformed Craton, down to here to Colorado at least. And that's why you're getting all the same size quakes going from Colorado back all the way up across the edge of the Craton, back to the northwest where we have a 2.7 to 2.8 up in the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So they're like bookends, 2.7 to 2.8 up at the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and a 2.7 to 2.8 on the edge of the Craton down here in Colorado. Now, in between the two, there's a line of quakes. You see it. It's a stepping stone path of quakes going from Yellowstone to the south, connecting through. Now, most of these locations have something significant at each spot that's lending to the earthquake striking at each spot, as opposed to moving on and just striking it somewhere else. They're striking next to weak points in the plate, whether Mother Nature has created or humans have created. I'm going to show you what's in southern Colorado, what humans have created that have caused this flow to come here, as opposed to go down into New Mexico or strike further up at Wyoming, up at Yellowstone. Why are we going down here? Over here in the mountains, first of all, let me show you where we are in Colorado. There we are. There's southern Colorado. All of this. Here's Haney, Modell, Pueblo, and so forth. There's Colorado City. Anyway, all of this is drilled. All of these little pads in the ground here are different oil and gas wells. They'll collect fresh water on the surface and then pump it down into the ground, mix it with toxic chemicals to break apart the shale to get the oil and gas. Fracking. Wastewater disposal process. There you go. Anyway, every one of those little pads in the ground, different oil well or gas well, goes all the way down to the border and beyond, down into New Mexico, down here, where there's just so many more. There's a famous shadow of the jack of a pump of a well there. So all that's drilled, and all that is on the edge of the Craton, especially down in Colorado. One more time, Craton graphic. Look where Colorado is out west. It's where our arrow makes the bend down through Texas. It's a perfect match, guys. The line of quakes going down over into Texas. Now, down in Texas, more drilling and more 4.0 level activity. That was expected. We were expecting this to take a step up to 5. And Oklahoma, I said I was going to talk about the big miss in Oklahoma. We had warned Oklahoma for up to 4.9 to 5.0 level activity. What it? Texas got hit, not Oklahoma. The energy went down across the letter J-shaped bend of the south end of the Craton, and instead of going over to Oklahoma, we got mid-range 4 down in Texas instead of a mid-range to upper 4 in Oklahoma. So I'm off by a state. And I'm trying to get it down to 200 miles, so I do consider that a miss. Does anybody care, though? Like, I know people care if I miss. Does anybody care if I get it right? Now let's go over here on the West Coast and go take a look. Go see what's going on out in California. I know my viewers care, but down across the coast, what are we looking at? Nothing's changed. Location-wise. Magnitude-wise, we're at 0s, 1s, 2s, and 3s, which is low. We're going to go back up to upper 4s, 4.9. We're going to go back up to upper 4s, but we should be striking right along the coast up here at Eureka on land. So new upper 4 to low 5 incoming up in Northern California. Last week, we had issued the warning for Salton Sea to be on watch for a 4.9. And a new 5.2 struck just south, right down here. Right down in Baja. Or was it a 4.9? Whatever. Okay, 4.9 was warned for, and a 4.9 was reported just south of the border. So if I'm trying to get it within 200 miles, I think it was 230 miles off from what I warned, or the location where I warned. This time it's Northern California. Last time it was Southern California. Why? The flow's coming in from the north. Oklahoma is technically a strikeout for me. It hit in Texas and was about a half magnitude under. Just have to tell you, my hits versus misses. I'll tell you both. If I get it wrong, I beat myself up somewhat. You ever see a meteorologist do that on TV or anything? When they totally flop their forecast and get it all wrong and tell everybody something's going to hit and it doesn't? Or like the big tornado watch that was issued for last night or this morning for Texas. They've now corrected it, said it's just moderate. They said it was huge, high warning, put bright pink things over everything. Everybody got all worried. And then today it's just moderate. There could still be some tornadoes. Down in Texas, I mean. They took it from high down to moderate within 12 hours. They had it up for multiple days telling everybody it was going to be a high threat of tornadoes. Now, I still think tornadoes will form down in Texas. And we're talking about weather here, but what I'm getting at is, have you ever seen the meteorologists come out and beat themselves up for getting it wrong when they tell Florida to watch out for a hurricane and then it fizzles out, it turns into a tropical storm or something? I just waiting for those moments of them, self-realization where people come on and apologize, but they never do. It turns out scientists aren't sorry for flopping forecasts. They go back and try and revamp them and try and figure out where they got them wrong and skip all the BS about feeling sorry. They might not even have consciences. Certainly AI doesn't. Okay, all right. Now let's just carry on. Do you guys have an earthquake plan? It's my last day of my watch for Turkey. Turkey, 7-day watch. Today is day 6. No large earthquake is hit. Do not let your guard down. There have been many times, several times, hundreds of times, where we get to the last day of my warning, 7 days, looks like it's all clear, earthquake hits right after the warning ends, like within an hour, 2 hours. There have been other times where it hits the next day, and then, of course, there's a few times where it doesn't hit at all, and it's a total strikeout for me. But where did the energy go then? Energy doesn't disappear. It can transfer, it can move around, but for it to go away, it has to expend. It has to be expended. And it's like a giant arrow pointing over to Turkey still, where it's broken and locked. We'll know if it gets there. It will break, and we'll see a significant sized earthquake in the upper 6 to low 7 range, down to the last day. If it does not hit by tomorrow, I get back on and I cancel the warning and put out a video saying so. Now, back to the earthquake plan thing. Do you know what to do when a quake strikes? If you're international, you're supposed to go outside, they tell you. And you need to know where to go ahead of time. The safe place to go if you're going to go outside, because of the potential of falling debris. Inside, you have to worry about collapsing structures, which is why internationally they tell everybody to go outside, because of the structures being made out of cinder blocks, stone stacks, shanty style. And then here in the West, quote unquote, and in Asia and other places, they tell people to shelter in place. And sheltering in place means going underneath a table or a desk to protect you from things falling inside. Now, you may be asleep. Might be nighttime. Look around your room now. Do you have things that can fall on you? Shelves that have things that'll break across the floor? How about furniture that can block doors? I'm serious. You need to look around your house, figure out what you need to do to keep your doors free and make sure that things don't fall on you. It's a kind of no-brainer here, too, that you need to just do that. Now, finally, you could probably have a set of shoes or slippers by the side of your bed to protect your feet in case you have to get up and walk through broken glass or other things on the floor. And you need to have an emergency kit. The emergency kit is just going to be to get you through a couple days. Change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, battery, food and water, lightweight, lightweight food, so prepackaged granola, high energy, high protein, high sugar, going to give you a lot of energy. You're not going to be probably wanting to eat and cook a steak on night one of a disaster. Good luck even trying to find a place to cook it if you're in a real disaster zone. So I'll just tell you, prepackaged food and the water is going to be the heaviest. So you might need a pump or some kind of the filters or something. I don't sell any of this stuff. You need to find it, man. Do it. If you can't afford the pumps and all that crap, at least bottle some water. Have it ready to go. That way you're not completely caught off guard. Now, think about your emergency kit. You need to also have an ID, extra set of keys, all the BS. I know. You need to put it into a bag and have it ready to go. And you might end up using it for something else other than an earthquake. Fires, floods, evacuations. Even if you just lose something, you'll have an extra set of keys in the emergency kit. I do this at the end of every freaking broadcast. I tell everybody to do this. I have yet to see a bunch of people walking around in a disaster with their emergency kits. I know I'm not being heard or whatever, but I'm just I kind of feel like I need to tell you over and over again in every broadcast. Just I'll feel bad if I don't. All right, enough complaining. Let's save this as a video. 11:39 a.m. Central Time on the 2nd of March, 2023. I guess winter is almost over. Knock on wood. And down south, it looks like you guys are in the Southern Hemisphere. Are you ready for a good Christmas? I'm sorry, a good summer. It's going to get cold down south. People down in New Zealand and Australia are going to be complaining about the cold. You watch. All right. Much love, guys. I'll be back around if you need me. Peace out.